Like you thought you were doing amazing, sweetie, and then you just get knocked on your ass sometimes. I know some people like find it easy to maintain a consistent workout schedule. And I also know a lot of other people don't. Like I know they just don't. And I know that there's so much guilt and shame and a little bit of like, oh, I should be able to do this the same all the time. You're not making it up. It's not excuses. And I also want to say, like, all right, so you have excuses. Like, who gives a shit?
Hello and welcome to The Foster. Today we have a very, very special guest. We have Miss Lauren Leavell. I am so excited. She is the barre instructor we love to curse out, and she welcomes it. She encourages it. I am so happy that she said yes. I have to fully admit this was our second time recording this. Lauren was so gracious to agree to record it again. Something happened with the recording. I don't know, but God is good because Lauren said yes to doing it again. And I feel like this recording was even better than the first. Lauren is absolutely hilarious. I hope you enjoy this episode so much. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Lauren Leavell. How are you doing today, Lauren? Thank you so much again for making the time for the second time. I'm so sorry.
This is not the first time I've had to redo either someone else's podcast or my own podcast. So I totally feel you.
Well, thank you for saying yes again. I really appreciate you. How are you doing today?
I mean, we're hanging in there.
Yeah.
Doing all the things, being business owners.
You just were dealing with that Philly water crisis I saw.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a crisis every other week at this point, so we're just rolling with it. I'm currently in the middle of like finishing up my taxes as well. So just a lot of fun adult things coming my way, lifestyle. And by lifestyle, I mean access to water.
Is it still going on, the crisis, or?
No, it was mostly crisis averted. It was really just a good lesson for the area and the folks in the area on emergency response. So they really needed a better system to notify people about their access to clean water and the fact that it may or may not be happening. But all's well that ends kind of chaotic in Philadelphia. So we'll see. We'll see what the next few months bring. I'm sure, something's always going to come up.
Hopefully not. I'm praying that you can keep your access to clean water.
You've never been to the city of Philadelphia, have you?
No.
I'm not, it's always something here. So yeah, I'm really glad that it was not as bad as it could have been, and also always on my toes because we're living in a world where access to clean water is not guaranteed for billions of people.
That is sadly very true. Well, all right. I like to start each podcast off by asking my guests, what is your story?
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of different stories, but I assume since we're talking about fitness and movement, we're going to go down that road. So I will go down that road with you.
Whatever you want to share. Like I'm open to whatever you want to share.
I am a born and almost raised California girl. I moved out of California when I was 21 years old to live with a guy that I met on the internet in Philadelphia, and I stayed here and have been with him for over a decade at this point. So
I love that so much.
That's how I got here. And I started teaching fitness like for a job about 6 years ago, 6 or 7. I really like, what is time, because after studios shut down, it just like changed how I felt about my career and the way that I was doing things in my career. So I'll go with a 6. I'll go with 6 years. I've been in the fitness industry as a certified barre teacher, and I'm also a certified personal trainer. I was a kid who avoided PE, and I realized like I didn't avoid PE because I necessarily like hated exercise and movement, but I really just was so self-conscious. I felt like I didn't have the body type to be doing activities. I felt like people would be looking at me. I felt like I was always maybe a little bit of a project for people when it came to movement. So I wasn't really super into it because I just didn't, that kind of stuff gives me anxiety. Like that makes me anxious to think about. So I pretty much avoided all types of fitness until I was about 18 or 19 and started working out because I thought that was a way to change the way that I looked. And I quickly found out that, I was no longer interested in that side of exercise, but I wanted to keep the feel good endorphins. I liked moving my body. And then I decided to teach. So that's how I got to where I am now, which is teaching full time virtually from my own home studio.
I I feel like there's a lot to unpack there, and
I'm like, here's my trauma,
no,
and that's how I became a teacher. Love you so much.
no, I relate to you so deeply on the PE thing. Like, I swear I had my period every single week just to get
Right.
out of doing any kind of exercise. Um, yeah, because I just didn't think it was for someone who looked like me. And through my dad, I was able to like kind of get into it. But of course, it was through like that weight loss lens at first,
Mhm.
and then
It's
falling in
it's a
love with it.
gateway. It's a gateway.
It's a game.
Sometimes we got to go through.
You have to go through the weight loss to get through the endorphins. But now
Yeah.
I'm just like, I do this truly for my mental health. Like, I
Mhm.
don't feel sane, like, if I don't get some kind of movement in. There was a post you posted recently where you were saying, like, you have to figure out what your low effort movement is, or
Oh
like what you
yeah,
consider
yeah.
your.
That was a post using my friend Dr. Marcia's audio, and they were just saying low, like low energy day movement. So I think it's really valid. I totally agree with you that my mental health is improved by movement, and I also just know and embrace and acknowledge that so many people don't have access to a movement practice for a variety of reasons, whether that is chronic illness, time, a bunch of different hurdles that cause people to maybe not have the access that we do to movement. But talking about people who do or who are interested in that, the idea of like a low power mode
Mm,
workout is the workout you do when you're like, I don't know, not trying to give 110%. I have a lot of feelings about like 110%, no excuses. I
yeah.
definitely lived that lifestyle for a while and it made everything miserable. Nothing was fun. It wasn't sustainable. So, like a low power day, a low power workout is something that you can get up and do for maybe 5 minutes. Maybe it's a breathing exercise. Maybe it's rolling around on the floor. Maybe it's going for a walk and really to me that sound and that post and that inspiration came from like just doing what you can
Mhm.
what with who you are in the present moment. So it's a little bit about being present and being in connection with your body because some days you like really just don't have it. You just don't.
Yeah.
Like there's no amount of programming, there's like no amount of motivation. And those are the days that when you do push through, you risk getting injured, you risk putting yourself in bed for the rest of the week. So I think really embracing those low power days for what they are and figuring out what types of movement or activities or exercise gives you or leaves you feeling your best. It doesn't like chew you up and leave you worse than you started.
I love that so much. I really carried that with me through this past week because I feel like I just had a lot of low power mode days.
Oh my gosh, me too. Me too. Since we last talked, I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm into stretching now." Like that's what I do. I
Yeah.
stretch now.
I am a stretching ass bitch. Yeah.
Mhm.
I am still working through this, but I just keep holding myself to the same level of output. Like if I went super hard one day, I should be able to do that every single day. And like you're helping me reframe my mind around the fact that your effort is not going to look the same every single day.
No, and it's so rough because I think that I mean, I think this really truly applies to everyone and anyone who has a menstrual cycle. Like,
That
okay, like you really thought you were doing something there, right? Like you thought you were doing amazing, sweetie, and then you just get knocked on your ass sometimes. Like
yeah.
for me personally, I know this doesn't apply to everyone. I know some people like find it easy to maintain a consistent workout schedule. And I also know a lot of other people don't. Like I know they just don't. And I know that there's so much guilt and shame and a little bit of like, oh, I should be able to do this the same all the time from so many people, whether you're an instructor or someone who enjoys taking walks and you can't get out on your walk, or there are days when like when I am in those like few days before I start my period where I go on a walk and I can barely breathe. Like I am like huffing and puffing, I'm sweating, my watch is going off like, girl, what is you doing?
No, the
And
watch notifications are the worst. Do you have an
yeah,
Apple Watch?
I'm like, I just walked outside a little bit. And they're like, you are in your high exertion. I'm like,
Yes.
okay. Oh my God.
I'm like,
Like,
not the Apple Watch reading me right now. They're like,
right. Like, am I okay?
your
But
blood oxygen level is higher.
yeah, you're like, so I think that like those things are so real. Like it's real. It's not, you're not making it up. It's not excuses. And I also want to say like, all right, so you have excuses. Like, who gives a shit? Like, you're allowed to have an excuse. You're a human being. Like, your whole life doesn't have to circulate around just like not having excuses, doing the same thing every day, like a consistent 100% all the time. Like, it's just so unsustainable. So, I'm really hopeful that folks will see other people being like, yeah, that wasn't sustainable for me, and be like, okay, cool. Because otherwise, you get like, it's not, you're not feeling motivated when you have to be at 100% all the time.
Exactly. Ugh, I'm just so grateful for you in this space. I wish like I had you when I was younger and just constantly listening to like David Goggins and just all these like bros who were like
Oh yeah.
4 days off and just beating myself up. I just wish, I mean, I'm grateful to have you now because obviously I could very well still be in that place, but I'm just sending a lot of love to that version of myself that resonated with a lot of what they were saying. Because yeah, it just, I feel like it just leads to more shame, and
Hmm.
that's not good for anybody.
Yeah, it's not, shame is actually not a health promoting behavior.
Okay. So I wanted to ask, how did you get into personal training exactly though? Like, was it, what brought you to that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I just was through my bar certificate and I had people who wanted to work with me more in depth than in a group fitness setting. And as much as we've had conversations about, I've talked about openly about certifications and them not always being my favorite, I thought that the best way to go for me, for the safety of my future clients, for the validity of my business, and at the time thinking maybe I would be doing this through other people's gyms because I've been certified since before I was teaching all virtually.
Mhm.
um, I was like, yeah, like this is a certification that I should get, and it would be easy for me to become a trainer in other spaces using this certification. So that's really like the motivation, was be able to provide like more in-depth services to the folks that I was working with. Um, I am, for better or worse, extremely picky about the clients that I take on.
Yeah,
And
you were talking about this recently. You shut your classes off. I've never seen this for a virtual class.
oh, yeah. With my virtual classes, I shut them down. I don't take on a ton of personal training clients. And when I do, like I am very particular about the way that we train. And I do, part of me does wish that there were like more trainers like me that I could send people to so that they know and they would feel comfortable doing that. But yeah, I cut my classes off at a certain level. It's a little controversial for virtual teachers to cap their classes, but I do it and I don't care.
Why do you do it?
I think it's easier for me to provide the experience that I hope people get from my classes when I know who's going to be there. So I like to shut my classes off at least 24 hours before they're going to happen. I'm able to look through the list and see, like, oh, this person's been here before. This person's brand new. This person was referred by this person. And I send out that pre class email and I field questions from that. Some people have questions, some people last minute, it
Mhm.
doesn't really matter if I shut it down. There's always going to be a last minute question. It doesn't matter how many questions I answer in the pre class email, in the class 30 minutes to class email. There's always going to be questions. It's the same thing in real, in person as well. But it allows me to have that flexibility and to be able to answer people and provide for them in a better way than just saying like, oh yeah, just sign up. You can sign up until, until I'm starting, like until 5 minutes before class. Cause I don't really want that experience. I don't want someone signing up 5 minutes before class. I got to get them the link. I got to tell them everything they need to bring. They're coming to class. They're not ready. And we're
Yeah.
ready to go. You've taken my class now. You know that it's 45 minutes. I'm talking the whole time. We're moving the whole time and then it's over. So there's not really a ton of time for that, for someone coming in and just being like, oh yeah, I just signed up. I don't know what we need to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I want to provide the other, however many people have signed up for this class, the experience and the space to ask specific questions because they already know what the general stuff is.
No, that makes perfect sense to me. And I love your class. Literally, I was getting in those little tiny pulses. My booty was twitching,
Oh
like
yeah.
getting those good shakes. It was really good, really enjoyable. I love the community too in the chat. Like everybody was really engaged.
Roasting me.
They were really engaging and helpful. Like someone was like, "How are my new people doing?" I just love that.
Yeah, they really take care. That's also part of it. It creates this insulated space that allows people to be new and be unsure and complain and roast me. Like
Yeah.
I was getting like I was getting tore up in that chat yesterday. Like they were like, "What is she doing?" Blah 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 blah. And I think that like allowing space for that and that community and that connection through being silly and complaining and everything has really, it's been good for me because
Mhm.
there's truth in those complaints, right? Like I'm finding out what they need from that. And also I don't know, it's funny, right? You do it when you're with you would look at your friends and give them a side eye if you were in class.
Mhm.
Like, can you do that in a virtual class? Like, how do I recreate that feeling a little bit in a virtual class?
I love it so much. No, you do an amazing job.
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to back up a little bit to understand a little bit more why you came to bar or chose bar as your method of movement to teach.
Yeah. Yeah, bar is fun, and I definitely don't look like a bar teacher.
You
Like,
seem like a
just
bar
no,
teacher.
I know we can say that because we know, but like when we're looking in, like if I was in a lineup, that's probably
Mhm.
not what you would guess that I taught, unless you looked at my feet and I have this perfect pointed toe. Um, but but yeah, I started teaching. I took a bar class. I took a free bar class, like a new studio drop-in situation,
Mhm.
and I at that point was like weightlifting, like I was going to the gym a lot. I was like doing probably more intense workouts than my body really needed at that point. I was, still wading through the waters of disordered relationships with both of those things. And I took a bar class and it kicked my ass. Like in a way that I have never experienced in an exercise class where I was just like, I'm like woozy. I feel some type of way. Like,
Yes.
and you would think that that would deter a person and make them never come back. And yet I continued coming back enough that I was like, oh, I kind of like this. And as I grew to understand the method and the workout, it was like, oh, I really enjoy these like three things about it. And I don't feel like it's necessarily always being communicated in the way that like is as inclusive and accepting as it could be. And I was
Definitely.
like, "Oh, who's doing that?" No one. Like no one that I knew in my area was doing that. Like no one was teaching a bar class that wasn't thin and blonde and ballet like, all the things that we think
Mhm.
of when we think of bar. And that's no shade and no shame because I learned from those people.
Mhm.
And I still do think that people need more variety and diversity when it comes to taking classes, whether or not, you know, maybe my body lulls people into a false sense of security that this class will not be difficult. And like, I want people to feel secure and confident and happy in my classes. And additionally, I also want to model that all bodies have a variety of levels that they can operate at, and it has nothing to do with what you're presenting on the outside.
Totally. That's amazing. I wanted to ask too, who would you recommend bar for? Is it good for everybody? Can everybody do bar?
I wouldn't say everybody can do any, particular workout. I think that that's like too broad in general, and I think bar is good for a lot of people. It's low impact. It's safe for most folks to continue doing through pregnancy and postpartum. I mean, once you're cleared and everything like that.
Mhm.
Um, People always ask, "Oh, what about my knees? I have bad knees," or "I have bad this." And, bad is, again, another word that kind of piques my interest when people say those kinds of things about themselves. Um, but it's low impact, so we're not going to be jumping. I teach a class that is catered towards people. I work with a lot of people with chronic illnesses, and I'm laughing because it's just like we continue like attracting the same types of people, and I've really grown a community that's very vocal about their needs.
Mhm.
So I teach a class that starts standing and ends on the floor, and we don't do any up and down. Like that's it. We go from standing to the floor. So the lack of level changes makes it more accessible for people who have blood pressure issues
Mm.
and struggle getting up and down off the floor. So those types of things. I mean, so really, a lot of people. If you are one of those people who doesn't want to do a lot of level changes in your classes, come to my class. If you're someone who's worried about your knees, it's low impact and it builds the muscles around your knees, so that can really like support your other lifestyle things like walking if you're trying to
Mhm.
go on a trip. Um, Postpartum or pregnant, come to class. I've worked with people up until their literal due dates. I have had people in class, and then later on, they're like, I left your class, I did a few things, and then I had a baby. And I'm like, what? That could have been, that's a close call, but like, that's how modifiable and variable bar can be, that it can really help a wide range of people.
I feel like low impact workouts are like having a moment right now. Like I'm seeing them everywhere. Just
Mhm.
in girls being like low impact for my hormone balancing, this, that, and
Oh
the
yeah.
third. But I'm just
It's
like,
always gotta do something. It can't just be, like, good on its
yeah.
own, right? Like, it can't just be, like, low impact because I like it.
Yeah.
Like
So is impact just not any jumping? Is that the definition of low impact workouts? Because like taking your class, I'm like, I feel impacted. I feel very
Yeah. 100%. You're like, I have had a close encounter with a high impact workout. Like, this is
I feel like low impact is a little deceiving if you don't
yeah.
really understand the definition.
Yeah, it's really kind of more closely related to, again, the jumping or the power, and additionally like the range of motion that we use. So in bar, as you know from those tiny pulses, they are in a very small range of motion. So you're not doing these big jump squats where
Mhm.
you're dropping all the way down and shooting all the way up. You're not doing jumping jacks. And so that's really what like brings it more into the low impact range. And I always tell people, because I do teach a HIIT class, right, which is a high impact interval training, or high intensity, sorry, high intensity. And I always tell people high intensity doesn't need to be high impact. So like bar can be low impact and high intensity, right? It was, you were having a high intensity moment.
Okay, yeah.
Um
I'm like, I
and
was feeling
my
something.
my HIIT classes can be high intensity, and I do teach them with jumping, and I also teach them with variations that require no jumping, because as we just said, some days you're going on a walk and your watch is like, breathe. Like, it has nothing to do with the impact. Like, you're not running, you're not pounding the pavement, and you're still getting that intensity. So I think low impact gets a little bit deceptive when people think it's going to be low intensity and low impact. Like, it can be low impact and high intensity in some ways.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, it's the intensity of
You
it
were
all.
like, I have a question. I was when I was in your class, I felt
Yeah.
extreme intensity.
I just see so many people like doing, I'm sure you've seen 12-3-30. Have
Mhm.
seen that, and people being like, this is so hard. And I'm like, but they say it's a low impact workout. I do
100%.
think it's an insane workout in and of itself, but um Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it is a low impact workout because it's not you're not well, I mean, it depends on how long your limbs are, I guess, because if you're short, you
yeah,
are running at that speed.
I
You're
am
like
short.
you are hustling. So it may not be as low impact for you if you're really picking up that pace and getting more to that pavement pounding feel. But
Hmm.
yeah, low impact doesn't necessarily mean low intensity, and I would say that bar can be pretty intense.
Yeah, I agree. I love it though. I'm excited to take another class. Um,
Yay.
how did I feel like you have such a great community online? I mean, I spoke to already the community in the classes, but how did you get into content creation and like sharing content online?
Yeah, everything, like so many elements of my life are just these happy accidents and little moments of chaos. So I was creating content when I was a no excuses girly, and I just slowly, like, the internet and people who have been in my network have like healed with me, right? Like,
Hmm.
I I've been pretty open about my struggles with disordered eating and disordered relationship with exercise. I've been open with my struggles with like transitioning out of that and how body image and body politics and like all of that plays a role. And so, really, I was not using social media to be like a social media girly. I was just doing it because it was fun. Um, and I was able to connect with so many people that made my community really what it is today and made it so powerful. And then now I'm doing it as a way of again connecting with more people, pulling more people into the dark side or into our side of fitness, rather where they're like, oh yeah, this is chill. I actually do
Mhm.
like to work out. I just don't like to be
Mhm.
yelled at or to like hate myself into working out or to do high intensity, high impact workouts all the time and beat my body to a pulp. Like there
Mhm.
are other ways. And I think that now that's really what my content is trying to target. It's like just trying to spread the word, spread the good news that you can do things another way.
I love that, and I love your content so so much.
I had fun.
Yeah, no, you're so funny on there. I love your duets and your stitches. Like when you stitched my video, I was like, "Oh, my first stitch." I'd never
Aw.
seen it before. Yeah, your TikTok is really a really good time. How what ushered you into that transition of coming out of the no excuses, go 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 mindset?
Yeah. A lot of things. And I would be completely lying if I said it was all intentional, right? If I was just like, "Oh, enough is enough. I'm never gonna diet again. I'm never gonna do it wasn't like that. It was like, I was finishing up college. I'm a multi-transfer student, right? Like I went from community college to one university and then another university after that. So it took me a little longer than your average person, but I was finishing up college. I had tons of student loan debt. I don't really have a strong family network. Like I didn't have a safety net. There was no safety net. There's never really been a safety net. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I gotta start applying for these jobs. I gotta start paying this debt. I gotta whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't continue this intense dieting and exercising and balance trying to find a job and balance trying to pay these bills and whatever. I was like, something's got to give. And like, this is no longer a priority for me. So
Mm.
taking my eyes off of that, just even for a little bit, changed how I felt about it. And then when I was like, I'll pick this up again later. And then I didn't want to. I was like, mm-mm. And at that time, people around me who I was following and interacting with, a few of my friends were really getting more into body positivity, body neutrality. And I just kind of like started, lurking around, looking into what they were doing, and realizing that what I had been doing was extremely unhealthy for me, right? Like I was not in a good mental space to be doing that. It was a mechanism of control. And I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna do that anymore." And I still love working out. Like, how do I make these things work? And because I don't know, I don't feel like we grew up with a ton of examples of people. Well, I didn't grow up with a ton of examples of people working out for like as a thing, like for fun or like because they
No.
wanted to. It was always as a means to change their body, get right, get back in shape, snap back, all the things, right? Um, and so that's when I started really exploring what I wanted my relationship with movement to look like, what I wanted my relationship with food to look like, and did so semi publicly, like really like picking through my own things and changing the narrative that I was like putting out there and changing the narrative in my head as well.
Yeah. I feel like I'm in a very similar boat right now. I'm in that kind of transition phase. I've never talked about weight loss exclusively, but I
Mm-hmm.
have posted things. Well, maybe I have actually. I'm like, I can remember in like 2020, like posting a picture in the gym being like 20 pounds down or things like that. And it's like now I'm completely shifting away from that.
Yeah.
But I feel like when I post things, like I have a video that's doing pretty well right now where some people are like saying, I was talking about my butt back.
Oh
um,
yeah, I commented on that.
yeah,
I know what you're talking.
so it's like blowing up now, and some people are like,
No.
"Oh, when I lost weight, my butt back went down," or "If you do this, like your butt back will go away." And I'm like, I never once say in the video, "I'm ashamed of my butt back. I don't want it." Like I'm here for I like it. Like
Yeah, it
I
is what it is. It's part of who you are.
yeah, and when I went to South Africa, it was filled with butt backs, and I was like, "Oh, here's my body type right here."
Hmm.
And so I don't know. Do you ever do people do that to you? That's what I'm trying to get to. How do
Yeah.
you deal with people like commenting on like thinking you're working out for weight loss when that's not what you're really trying to be a part of?
Yeah, I think it's really common, and I also never explicitly tell people to not work out for weight loss because that's really not that's not in my lane. That's not on my pay grade. That's not in my lane. That's not my business. Like I stay out of it. Um, I find it interesting. I mean, I've done ads that become, promoted, right? Like by the brands, and I did one that was for like weights, and in the video I was like genuinely like I was working out. It was like little
Mhm.
snippets of me working out. And the comments under there were just like, saying things about my body, saying, "Oh yeah, right," or like blah 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 blah. And I just really find it interesting that no matter what you do, like no matter how you model like your content or whatever, someone's going to have something to say.
Mm,
And I think that maybe if someone was like genuine enough and being like, "Oh yeah, like this is how I got my whatever, like this is how I got my butt back fixed," or whatever the flavor of the week of like whatever they want to
mhm.
talk about. Um I would probably just be like, "Thanks so much. I'm not currently like interested in that, or that's like not really what I'm participating in." I usually keep it very, very civil and simple, only because who am I? Who am I to deconstruct somebody's billions and billions of dollar diet industry mindset? Like, I'm just one woman and I don't have enough time for it. Um, so I think that really it's more about how you take those things, and they do add up, right? Like you're putting yourself out there, you're getting these comments. It's like, okay, yeah, like all right, that's enough of you telling me how to fix the body that I'm in that I'm good with. Shut it down.
I did not
But
ask for this, and people are super supportive. That's why I love TikTok. People are just really fun and nice on there, but there are just a few comments that
right, like it's an assumption that if you're in a body that's not read as traditionally fit, that you're working out and moving your body to pursue some ideal body type, and
exactly.
that's their problem, not yours. That's their idea, not yours.
Thank you for giving me this reminder because I'm like I don't know how to.
You're like, thank you.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know.
I just feel like life
Thank you?
that.
Question mark. Like
Like I don't know what to say here.
three random heart emojis, just like any color. Like okay.
Oh, that is so funny. So, because you're a plus size trainer who's not interested in weight loss, how do you respond to people who may come to you who are interested in weight loss?
Yeah, yeah. So as I said, I may pick people go through a few hoops before they work with me one on
Mhm.
one. But yeah, I mean, I have no control over what the folks in my group fitness are doing with their lives. The other 23 hours of the day that they're not, working out with me that day. And I'm never going to discourage someone from being on a weight loss journey. Again, that's just not where I'm at. I'm never going to create a workout for someone and say, if you do this, then you'll lose weight. That's just also not who I am. So we just don't talk about it, which is why I consider myself a weight neutral trainer and a body neutral content creator and trainer. I know body neutrality is not for everybody because it feels a little bit too, again, neutral. It's not maybe one way enough or the other way enough, but it holds so much space for all the nuance that comes in between because, thinness is safety for some people. You will be safer if you are in a smaller body. You will get treated better. You will get better jobs. Like, I understand why people want to lose weight. And I am stepping off of that ride for my own mental health and for the enjoyment of my very individual life and my situation. And I know, again, some people are denied medical treatment because of the size of their body. So, of course, they would want to pursue something that got them closer to being properly cared for. I'm not. I'm not going to be the one who's like, oh, you shouldn't do that, no matter what. Like, oh, I'm sorry, you're being denied your medication, but weight loss is bad. Like, that's not my that's not my responsibility, and that's not appropriate. So I accept all my people as they come. I discourage and do not promote weight discussion, diet talk, any of that within my classes, within my community. And again, it's not my business what my people are doing and what they're working on outside of what we do together.
That is just so well said. Thank you so much for saying that and voicing that, because I feel like that is something that I'm not seeing as much in the conversation, just like the empathy for people who may want to lose weight. Because I feel like it's kind of like, it feels like a little bit of a pendulum swing.
Oh my gosh, it's like a war out there.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta pick a side, and I'm like, I'm hiding. I'm not even qualified to talk about this stuff.
You're truly neutral. I love that so much. And what would you say the difference between body positivity and body neutrality is?
I mean, where do
Side
we?
eye.
I know, bombastic.
Bombastic.
Like, where do we get started? I love hashtag body positivity for what it was and what it created in my life when I needed it, and it got me to this space. And it is just completely whitewashed and completely, almost completely devoid of what it originally intended to do, which was what I was just talking about: create more equitable spaces and create spaces that were safe for folks in all body types. So now I'm leaning more into body neutrality, which is what we just talked about, right? Like, showing up, being present in the body that I'm in, not really practicing punishing behaviors towards this body, really feeling again, present. And I know for some people that's it. That's the end of the line. Like, some people will never get to body love and I love my self love. Like, I love my body. I love the shape of my body, and body liberation, which, feeling completely and wholly accepting of all your flaws and all of that. I love that for people. I hope that more people get there. And I completely hold space for people who are just clawing their way out of hating their bodies. Like, there needs to be a pit stop in between self-love and self-hate. Like, we can't, like you said, the pendulum is just swinging too far. We got to create a little limbo space of oh, hey, I'm not here to tell you to love your rolls and your cellulite. We're not going to talk about it. We're going to move, and we're going to listen to our bodies, and we're going to be present. And we don't have to really talk about those other things one way or another. And I naturally, I'm in fitness. Like, I attract people who have engaged in negative self-talk and who really are looking for more of that confidence boost, and or looking for someone to tell them to do better. And I told someone the other day, I'm like, I can't tell you how far to go. You got to figure it out. I can't. I can tell you when to maybe exit if you're feeling pain or if you're feeling, some type of way. But I can't even tell you how much pain you should be in. That's all up to you. And we're so disconnected, most of us, that it's hard to get there. So that's why I hold the space in neutrality, because if you can get there, you've already come, like, personally pretty far, in my opinion. If you can get to neutral, you've come pretty far, because they've spent a lot of money trying to make us hate ourselves.
Yeah, that they do. I accidentally so I are you familiar with Symbiotica?
I'm not.
Okay.
Uh-uh.
Well,
Tell
the
me.
owner, I'm sure it's a great company, and I've supported it with my own dollars, but it is a very overpriced protein powder, and I forgot to cancel my subscription,
Oh no.
and I got charged today for the protein powder, and I'm just like, these are the things I buy when I hate myself. Not that I hated myself when I mean, nothing's wrong with protein powder. It's just this one's very overpriced, and I only bought it because the owner very much so leans into that messaging of like, you need to be buying this because X, Y, and Z, and so
Yeah, you're being sold. Yeah, it's not your fault,
yeah,
right? Like,
nothing wrong with Symbiotic. I don't hate Sym like, please sponsor me, but they are very expensive, and they're just not accessible for the everyday person.
yeah.
I also wanted to ask, because we just touched on fitness, what are some ways people can track their progress in a neutral way, in a non-scale based way?
Yeah. I think there are a lot of ways that even trainers who are working with weight loss and all of that, they still use these. So the scale is such a small thing, and if you've ever been to, like, get your free training session, and they, like, do the body scan and they do all this stuff, like, valid if that's your goal, but, like, also can be extremely triggering if it's not. Other ways to track your fitness progress. We talked about the 12 3 30. It's 12 3
Mhm.
30, right? I'm trying to mix the numbers up.
Yeah.
Um, 3 12 20. Like, I don't know the numbers, but I think that something like that, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to do the whatever 30, and you get 10 minutes into it and you're like, I literally, like, I must lie down, like, I cannot walk any further. And then you do it for a few weeks and you realize you got the full 30 minutes in. um that's a sign of fitness progress. Like, that's a sign of your endurance increasing, because you continued doing that stimulus until your body adjusted and got you over that threshold. Squats, obviously, you start maybe with a body weight squat. You start with a squat till your booty touches a chair, and then you get a lower surface for your booty to touch, and then you no longer need something to touch your booty to. Like, squats with weight, maybe you start with the bar, then you add weights to the bar, then those are the ways that you can track your progress, that have nothing to do with the weight on the scale. They have nothing to do with aesthetically how you look. Like, you could do all these things and look exactly the same by the end of it. You could start with a deadlift of 45 pounds and end with a deadlift of 325 pounds after a certain amount of training that got you there,
That's my goal.
and look exactly the same, which can be so frustrating in a world that's framed that you should exercise to change your body. But, like, damn, if you go from, like, 45 pounds to an over 300, like, how is that not, like, a feel good amount of progress for you? And, like, some people will never lift 300 pounds. That's also real. They just won't. And so there's nothing wrong with setting smart goals, like time and all, goals that are smart, right? You have, like, a specific measurable blah 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 blah, that are very specific to you and to your own goals. Like, they don't have to be someone else's goals. Someone else could have a goal of you lifting 300 pounds, but what if that wasn't your goal? What if you're like, I really don't give a shit? You're not going to really work towards that goal with, like, full enthusiasm if someone else is setting them for you. So I think that really figuring out what your goals are, how they work into your life and your lifestyle, rather than you working your life and lifestyle around those goals when it comes to fitness, because most of us are not going to go into the Olympics. It's, like, not that serious. It's so unserious. It's 45 minutes in a bar class. It's not, we're not doing rocket science over here.
Quite literally not. All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I like to end each podcast by asking what is something that you're fostering for yourself currently?
Yes, and we had a little talk about this because we had a pre-recording record.
Yeah.
Um, but I really am leaning into a self-care and a little mini luxury lifestyle things. And when I say this, I very much mean reframing maintaining myself into something a little bit more luxurious. I am someone who feels like my next task, especially a task outside of myself, is more important than what I do for myself. I will trade the 5 minutes of my skincare routine for 5 minutes checking my email and responding to someone. And I'm really trying to like prioritize doing a little bit more things for myself that will make me feel good or make me feel connected and that I don't necessarily always want to do. And
Mm.
reframing them as like little mini moments of luxury. Like, what a luxurious thing to do, washing my face and putting on my very eczema safe skincare. Because like
Oh, do you have
it's
eczema?
oh yeah. Oh
I'm
yeah.
wondering, I have a rash all over my torso right now, and I have no idea what's going on. So I'm like, if this is what eczema is like, I mean, I've always had
I'm
empathy for, but I don't know what's going on right now.
right, right. Yeah, like I've had several flare-ups recently, so that's the other reason like creating these little mini moments where I can like take care of my skin is important, like to check in on myself. And I think that it's really hard when you're running a business and you're again just like on a little treadmill to success and like all those things, right? You deny yourself these little moments, or at least I do. So I'm trying to lean into that, to creating little moments for myself that are actually self-care, but I'm like, oh, how luxurious, she's washing her face.
Yes, I love that so much for you. What face wash are you using for your eczema? For your eczema?
I'm literally using like baby Aveeno everything. Again, shout out to Aveeno, please sponsor me. Um, I had a really bad eczema flare on my face for the first time in 31 years at around Christmas. Like I just got
Mm.
like things just started falling apart. And so I had to give up any like there was no more fun skincare. It was strictly business. Like it was strictly like my face, I had red patches, I had dry patches, there were peeling things going on, so I needed something that was like and Aveeno Baby. They have a baby line, not even the adult line. I gotta use baby. So they have Aveeno Eczema Baby, and that's what I'm using. And that I'm like, yo, for real, Aveeno Eczema Baby reps, hit me up because it saved me. And I was doing really well. I was back to using some other products. And I think allergy season just sent me into another flare because eczema is related to allergies, folks. Um,
Mm.
so I'm back on my Aveeno game. Very
I'm
luxurious.
I'm happy you found something that's working for you. As I'm like scratching my torso,
Yeah, no, I
I'm working towards
highly
it.
recommend.
I'm like super itchy everywhere right now. I don't know what's going
Yep,
on.
it
Um,
might be allergy season. Yeah.
okay. That is great. I've never had anything like this before. I've never had allergies. I've always just been, I make fun of my boyfriend like, 'cause he has allergies, and I'm like, you're lame. But I've been fearing that that something was gonna happen to me.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
things
you've
have
inherited them now.
yeah. All right. Well, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much again for making the time. Again, I really appreciate it.
Yay!
Tell the
Yes, we
folks where
did
they
it.
can find you.
We found each other on TikTok, which I think is really fun.
Yeah,
At Lauren Leavell Fit, and someone will throw it in the show notes how to spell it.
I
And
will.
then and then on Instagram at Lauren Leavell Fitness. And if you're interested at all in joining a very casual month to month roast me in the chat, low impact, high intensity bar class, you can do that on my membership. I teach 4 live classes a week, and I would love to have you.
It's amazing. You will get your ass kicked though. And
But like,
don't bring any weights more than 3 pounds.
no more than 3 pounds. No, no. I should tell people that more explicitly. I try. I say light.
You do a good job. My gym just didn't have any little baby weights. I'll have to
Yeah.
buy some.
Yeah. Yes. Luckily, they're not too expensive.
All right. Thank you so much, Lauren. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Lauren is absolutely hilarious. She is so funny and had me cracking up literally the entire time. If you enjoyed this podcast and you feel like you might have a friend or a family member who might enjoy this as well, please share it. That is how the podcast can grow. So I really appreciate any time that you guys share it, whether that's just to your stories or through a text message. It is all super appreciated. And in that same vein, if you like this, please give it 5 stars. You can follow the podcast on Spotify so you never miss a new episode. Rate and review it on Apple Podcasts. All of this is so super appreciated. I really appreciate you guys so much. And I will see you / talk to you in the next one. Bye.